Greetings all, lovely to connect with you as I rest here in the early dawn of beautiful morning here in the Emerald Isle of Ireland, and just tuning you into the beautiful bird song that takes place here every morning. And as I sit here tuning in and enjoying these delicious sounds, what comes to mind so strongly is the incredible chant that takes place every morning all around the world. The mantra that is sung with all the winged life, the bird life, and beyond, and how correlated it is to our morning practice, our sadhana, where we are chanting or tuning into our mantras from whatever discipline, from whatever practice we may come from. And in the same way that we tune in and set the tone for our day with our practice and with our chanting and with our mantras, it's a complete reflection of all of nature, as it also does the same, both in dawn and dusk, tuning in and tuning out, opening up that space. They say that the dawn and the dusk hours are those times in the day where the connection with the universe is particularly clear. That's why in the Kundalini Yoga discipline, we're most likely to be found rising in the hours between 3:30 and 6, and I'm actually tuning into you around that time as well, because it's called the Amrit Villa time, where we are more inclined to be deeply connected to the universe, where that veil is thinner and our ability to communicate and hear more clearly and also be heard more clearly, where our communion and our connection and our dialogue with the universe is more clearly received, in a sense. Not that there isn't any time that we're not received, but there is a more clear line, if you will, of communication back and forth, of receiving the guidance and of clearly co-creating our path and our destiny and our day. And so nature reflects that for us. It's in all of nature. So it's sadhana time, practice time in the morning is not something just for the quote-unquote spiritualist or yogi or meditator. It's what is natural. It's reflected in all of nature. And so often as humans, we get out of sorts with nature. We get disconnected with nature. We lose our way from what is natural. And in our world today, we see that quite clearly reflected, the effects of our disconnect with the natural way. There are kind of effects and a return of what we've all co-created in living out of sorts with nature and what is natural. And so then what is reflected back is a lot of out of sortsness, a lot of upheaval and chaos. And as that is reflected to us in the world around us, one of the key aspects for us who are living more consciously and awake is to constantly practice the awakened state of, rather than seeing the destruction around us and the chaos around us as something that is negative, rather seeing it as a positive, as a catalyst for change, because the universe is in constant change always. And something that Inamoto Sensei, who we study with in Japan, so beautifully reflects to us, is that everything is constantly changing. And so we are in a time of great change, great change. And it is a time for great fluidity and flexibility and mobility and the ability to, in a sense, dance and flow with the change rather than to resist the change, and to grow with the change rather than to stagnate around the change. So this is very much a time of purification. We are entering a Mercury retrograde. We are between a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, and there were a couple of other planets that were in retrograde as well. And retrograde often, in our society and in our world can really spin some fear-based concepts, because a lot of intense change happens during retrogrades, and because it's very much a retro. It's a time of retreat, renewal, restoration. It's a time of clarifying. It's definitely a time that in retrograde where things slow down. And so in a world where we're always in a rush and lots occurring for all of us, it can be often difficult to do that. And in that slowing down, it's a time for completing things that have been hanging, completing projects. It's a time for purification, for clearing out, for releasing as we renew, and revisiting many things that have maybe risen in the past and we haven't fully addressed on all levels, on the physical, on the mental, on the emotional, on the spiritual, in our financial world, in our relationships, in our dharma, in our work. And so what happens is that when we don't create space for such times, then retrograde becomes quite intense. And so in our world, we've created a world that doesn't allow for this very much. And we are so kind of wired all the time. I'm hoping you can hear that beautiful new chant that just tuned in, our lovely dove sounds here. So right in line as we're talking about this, just the space in our world for listening, for seeing, for just being. Time for what we reflected on during our sacred journey here in Ireland. Time for mindful gazing. Just gazing. Noticing the creative ability to just be in the presence of nature, whatever that may be. It could just be your backyard or a park, and just gaze and to tune into the creative essence that is ever present all around us and ever flowing despite what have done to nature. That creative flow, that force of life, that is the divine, that fuels and within all of life and all of nature, to just be present with it and to engage in it with presence, with listening, with seeing, with smelling. We were on a beautiful little nature walk this past weekend with family here in Ireland, and they have lovely little signs around this valley and canyon, engaging families to notice, to stop and to notice and to listen and to see and to smell and to touch, which I found so just wonderful. And so with the children that we were with, it was just so delightful to experience them engaging us in these signs and finding these most amazing parts of nature all around us. And so we were all participating in the senses, and that's one of the beautiful gifts of this island and its history. And the Celtic way of life is really engaging in the senses, which is very similar to the mindfulness practice, but has a deeper quality of eros here, of really kind of the erotic essence of just delighting in your senses in the purest and most beautiful manner, of delighting in the tastes and in the smells and in the touch and in the sights, and which engages the creative mind. And what's fascinating about, most of Europe as well is that we drive on the left side of the road. And I remember this being taught to us in one of my sociology classes or history classes, is that there's a theory that was that was created because we were much more creative minded in that time. And so driving on the left side of the road engages the right side of the brain, which is the creative, intuitive, fluid part of us. And if you look around most of Europe, there's such a creative flow in all of the architecture, the detail and very much more of a fusion between nature and man, and in its poetry and in its architecture and even its political arenas. There's just much more of that infused. And that's very true here on the Emerald Isle, which is known as a time here where there was a hub of authors and literature was prominent here and was kind of the hub of all of Europe. So the poets and the great writers that we have birthed here in this beautiful island just reflect this beautiful dance in nature, reflect the beautiful sights and the senses that are engaged here, and the sense also of the deeper part of us, tuning us also to the sense of the awareness that veil, that thinness that we may experience both in dawn and in dusk, is also just ever present. And so when we're more deeply in tune with what is natural and more deeply in tune with nature, we're fully aware that everything is connected and there's really no separation, which is what we spoke about when I was in Japan, that when we're on Mount Kurama and in the teachings, in the original teachings of Reiki, is very much about awakening us to everything being connected. Earth and heaven as one, all natural within us as humans. So within us as humans and with all of nature is this ever-present awareness that the divine is ever-present, and that luminescence, that Reiki is everywhere. And that opens us up to the bodhisattvas and the infinite guidance of the universe and the ascended ones and the illumined ones, and that there is really no separation between us and this infinite flow and infinite source. And there's really no separation between us and that place of wholeness that is natural, that is the way that we were all designed. So as things are dissolving around us, it's so easy to get, and many structures around us are falling apart, and the effects of many things that we've created over time, creating destruction around us. It's very important for us to keep returning to the truth, that even within all of this, there is a truth. There is a Satnam. There is a truth which Reiki speaks of for us. There's a truth that no destruction can ever destroy, that was in the beginning, will be in the end, and always exists. And so I'll read to you a little excerpt here from our book Anamkara by John O'Donohue, which is our reference guide on our sacred journey here in Ireland, and will be if you join us next year here in Ireland. It's very much the foundational theme of our journey here on this island. And he says here, the eternal is not elsewhere. It is not distant. There is nothing as near as the eternal. This is captured in the lovely Celtic phrase, the land of eternal youth is behind the house, a beautiful land, fluent within itself. The eternal world and the mortal world are not parallel, rather they are fused. The beautiful Gaelic phrase states, woven into and through each other, captures this. So let me read this again. The land of the eternal youth is behind the house, a beautiful land fluent within itself. The eternal world and the mortal world are not parallel, rather they are fused, woven into and through each other. And in our modern world, we've created so much separation in that truth. We live so often separate from this beautiful elements all around us, nature, and even if we're in the midst of beautiful nature, our minds and all the worries of our minds can keep us separate from what's right within us and right around us. And we also have been conditioned and created to live in a world separate from the eternal, separate from the resource that's ever around us and supporting us, which is that internal world and that realm of the bodhisattvas, that realm of our ascended helpers, and that realm of our wisdom, that realm of our soul, of our spirit. Whatever works for you, whatever resonates for you. And that's the beauty of our practice of Reiki, correct? That supports us and assists us in living that in every day. So we have that through the 5 Reiki precepts that remind us on a daily basis to, as the challenges around us arise, to let go of the worry. And as things arise that frustrate us, to let go of the anger. And rather than living in those places, which only deplete us, to find that place where we can be filled with gratitude for the simple things. And then with that, being able to just live moment by moment, devoting ourselves to what is at hand in front of us, to the work at hand in front of us, to our practice. Coming and approaching all of that with that devotional element. And living a life where we just practice loving kindness. It's just part of our life on a daily basis. First and foremost with ourselves. And that loving kindness with ourselves is being kind and compassionate with those weaknesses within ourselves. But to be loving and kind with our weaknesses is not to just dance with those weaknesses and allow them to undermine us, but to be kind and compassionate and understanding in those places that are challenging for us, and to also, in loving kindness, like a parent with a child, assist that part of us in growing and in healing and evolving and loving ourselves fully for all parts of ourselves, which enables us to be able to grow and to rise into that better part of ourselves. And then in so doing, when we love ourselves thoroughly, then it's so easy to love others. And that is, in essence, the 5th Reiki principle. When we love ourselves, then we can more easily love others, and we can also more easily love the world around us and care for the world around us. And so it's very much a time in our world where we are really being called to honor and care for ourselves, for each other, and for our world around us. And it's so beautiful to see the rising that is happening all around the world. So many of us just walking yogis and walking light workers. And so we may see leaders around the world that don't reflect that. And we can give so much emphasis to those leaders and so much attention to those leaders that we really take away the power that all the little acts around the world and all the individuals around the world that embody this truth, that embody the Satnam, that embody this union within their life, within their being, within their practice, this union of this natural way of being, this living in that fusion of the eternal and the mortal, that there are millions of us all around the world that are living this way and that are sharing in this way and that are co-creating in this way and that are in community in this way. That are millions of us that are awake, millions of us that are in this state of awareness of the fusion and how we are all interconnected and that we are all created to love and care for each other. And so if we can take our focus away from all the destruction and bring our focus into this birthing that is occurring on this planet and the millions of us that are awake, then that can grow. And that growth will fuse us more and more together. And the leaders around us may do their dance, but we will truly be the leaders. We will truly be the co-creators, birthing a new world, birthing a new existence, birthing a new awareness. So I invite you as we enter in the deeper part of our summer and as we enter this interesting retrograde time, and to, as you see challenges around you, to really birth in every moment the awareness that right next to you on the bus or right next to you on the highway in traffic or right next to you, on the airplane or wherever you may be walking or in the congested beach or wherever, right next to you, there is someone just like you, awake, aware, seeking and desiring to better themselves and better the world, and fused in that place of wholeness within themselves and all of life around them. And just notice that just kind of ripple out all around you in a web. And notice all the people around you that are maybe disguised in, different ways of being than you may be you. And just notice that that web is being created. That web of truth, that web of light, that web of change. That we're all co-creating a new world. A world balanced. And so in this time, in these lunar eclipses, this lunar eclipse, and you may not get this until after the lunar eclipses pass, and in this retrograde, the reality is that these planetary kind of alignments and retros are happening all the time. So we have the opportunity to practice this all the time so that we can use them as opportunities and embrace them as opportunities for transformation. And so part of that may also require for us to take some actions, whether it be personally taking some actions where we are cleaning up and clearing out those behaviors, those destructive behaviors that undermine us and undermine our path. And so that may often require some discipline and some changes. And initially, it's quite challenging and intense, and there's a sense of pain and suffering as we're making these changes. However, if we want to create change in the world, and we want to live out of this suffering, that initial challenge and pain as we make those changes is essential to create real change in our lives and to enable us to really live true. and live free, to live free. And so that may require disciplines and some elimination of things we may ingest or things we may participate in. But if we are able to do that with a sense of love and find creativity around it, then it becomes more easy. It becomes less about that we're taking anything away from us and more about we're giving ourselves something completely new and divine and delicious. And we also maybe being infused and guided and fueled to take actions around us as well in our communities. We may be really challenged and having a hard time seeing some of the destructions happening in our cities or in our towns. And so rather than complaining about them, take some action, get involved. And that also is related to what's happening nationally or internationally. That if there's something that's frustrating you, rather than complaining about it and judging people and putting people down, even those leaders that we don't like, rather than harboring in your heart anger, take action, make the changes. Your anger is your ability to create change and take action. But when your anger becomes a place where you just dance in it and fuel it, you create forest fires. The very forest fires you're seeing all around the world. So be careful with your anger. Use it wisely. Use it wisely. And tame it with your love and your passion for change, rather than as a force to destroy and create destruction around you in the very way that you are judging those leaders around you. So be mindful. Be mindful with your emotions and allow this time, this retrograde time, to be a time of transformation of your own inner emotions and your way of relating to the world around you, so that you can be a catalyst and a warrior of light, of transformation that can be so impactful beyond your ability to believe of how the ways that you can impact and create change. Whatever ways that you may be mindless or you may be unconscious, when you want to judge people around you, take that focus to yourself. Where are you mindless? Where are you unconscious? Get conscious. Get awake. And if you're seeing people around you that are mindless and unconscious, rather than focusing on that mindlessness and unconsciousness, focus on that birth of consciousness within them, that birth of mindfulness within them. See them birthing in that way. And that goes for the leaders around you and all the people creating heinous acts around you. See the birth of that conscious awareness, awakening, and all of it. That is the true warriorship of our times, of this new age, of this new time, is the ability to see the birth of consciousness, the birth of God in the most heinous of individual or acts. The ability to see infinite good coming from that. We birth it through our consciousness. Everything comes from the vacant, from the emptiness, and is birthed through. So allow your practices to support you in developing this masterful way of being. And so, dear ones, let's just drop in to our senses. Let's just drop in into the present. Sensing your sit bones, noticing the earth beneath you and all around you. And sensing these 3 energy centers, which we tune into in the practice of Reiki, just noticing your pelvic floor and your pelvic girdle, and just noticing the river of energy in your hara, in your navel, and your dantian. Just noticing the flow of breath in and through the center. And again, just noticing your spine as it rises from your pelvic floor up to your shoulders and your neck and head. And just noticing the field and the center of energy around your third eye and your head region. Just bringing awareness to the flow of breath. Just sensing your tongue as it rests in your palate and your eyes as they rest in their socket. And then bringing awareness to your heart center and the field of energy. Encircling your heart space, front and back and all around. And just noticing the muscles of your belly and your chest and any softening there. Noticing the muscles of your scalp, your face and your jaws, and any softening there. And then just bringing awareness to your body as a whole, bringing awareness to the flow of breath as it flows through these three energy centers, from top to down, down, up. It's like a waterfall as the breath flows upstream and downstream. Not an effortful breath, it's just an awareness breath as the breath just naturally fills each center. And it's creating a connection. Heaven, earth, heart, all one. Notice any areas of your breath that are shallow. And see if you can begin to lengthen the breath. Counting to 5 with each inhale. Counting to 5 with each exhale. Just dropping into your senses, sensing the breath flowing through your body, sensing your body as the breath washes through, sensing as you inhale, expanding and filling, and then as you exhale, washing through every inch, muscle, organ, out your skin. And just sensing that union of your breath and your body and the earth all around you and within you. And sensing as you deepen in presence the sounds, the scents, and the touch. tuning into that union and communion with your inner being, your inner senses, fuse with your outer senses, all one. And as Reiki so beautifully tunes us into, and this Celtic way of life so beautifully tunes us into so many parallels between the two, as is also reflected in the Huna Hawaiian way of life. As we drop in presence, we tune into our inner sense of the fusion of the eternal, one with the mortal. It's tuning into that flow of Reiki that is ever present. And if you are trained and attuned, you'll have a deeper understanding of that. It's the awareness that it is within you and all around you. And the support of the universe, the support of this unlimited, inexhaustible flow that is the miraculous and sacred energy of the universe known as Reiki, opens us up to what is whole, what is true, what is vibrant, what is natural. And that natural connection to the bodhisattvas, the ancestors, the angels, the guides. And if none of that resonates for you, just source, universe, your inner wisdom, your higher self, spirit. Ever present, always, in all ways. Feel free to pause this podcast and continue slipping deeper into a place of union, of communion, allowing for regeneration, renewal within your being, tuning into this beautiful Emerald Isle and all of its wealth of nourishment. Tuning you into that creative essence within you, opening up that eros and that fluid flow. So allowing for the washing clear, allowing for the purification, and just opening up to receive in this place of great space, opening up to receive whatever messages are here for you. And drinking that in, exhaling that through. And taking a few deep breaths again. Deep imprint of this experience of spaciousness, of presence, of union, of communion, of the flow of eros within you and all around you. As you gently begin to bring your awareness back carrying with you this union. There's no separation, there's just continuation. And bringing that forth as you gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. And stretching out as you gently bring your palms together, rub them together, place them over your face, and then gently opening your eyes. Carrying with you this essence as you flow through your day, or maybe into your sleep as you flow into your evening. And I'll leave you with this beautiful poem, one of my favorites from this book from John O'Donohue. And before I read this to you, because I'll end with this, I look forward to sharing more of this sensuousness that we've dived into here on this land, on this Emerald Isle. I am here for another month, and I am connecting with many of you via phone sessions, so mentoring session, coaching sessions, distant Reiki sessions, available wherever I travel. So it is a continuous flow. There is no stop and start. So please reach out as desired, as needed. We will be doing a Reiki 1 and 2 course here in Ireland this coming weekend, then back in the City of Angels in Los Angeles, September 8th and 9th. And then I look forward to joining with many of you as we go to our annual fall home for our annual Maui Sacred Journey and Reiki training. So if you're not eligible for the Reiki trainings, you can join us for the Sacred Journey, which is just divine, as we're on these 10 acres of luscious landscape and beautiful bay, given we're blessed with lovely weather. It's just a lovely time to gather there. So just a continuation of what we're experiencing here. And we are also preparing for our Japan journey in the spring next year. There's early planning stages. So if you're interested in any of these journeys, Japan, Ireland, or Maui, please contact me and I can fill you in on the details. Any of the Reiki trainings as well. And so you can find me at sacredventures.com or reikiunleashed.com, and all my contact information is there. You can also reach me directly at info@sacredventures.com. All right, dear ones, and so I leave you with a blessing for the senses. May your body be blessed. May you realize that your body is a faithful and beautiful friend of your soul. And may you be peaceful and joyful and recognize that your senses are sacred thresholds. May you realize that holiness is mindful gazing, feeling, hearing, and touching. May your senses gather you and bring you home. May your senses always enable you to celebrate the universe and the mystery and possibilities in your presence here. May the eros of the earth bless you. Sat Nam, Namaste. Infinite Reiki Aloha Love. Celtic blessings.